lost our beloved orchestra director very suddenly this season, and this concert is dedicated to him, and you will hear one of his best friends, Chris. She was one of his oldest and dearest friends.
This concert is dedicated to Chris Gruber. And while you may not know him personally, he was a vital member of the LW Orchestra since about 2019. Chris was often the announcer for the orchestra, telling our audience about the pieces we played. You may remember him from his storytelling. He was also one of two precious viola players. Very precious. We don't find a lot of them. Before coming to the orchestra, he was actually a fiddle player, playing, well, folk tunes by ear. And when he joined the orchestra, he had to become a violin player. Same instruments, but now he had to read music and follow along. Then he discovered that he really needed to help out the orchestra by becoming a viola player. Now, a viola looks just like a violin, only bigger, but it's not written in the same way. And he had to learn to read a whole new set of notes and fingerings, and he did it just for the orchestra. Wow. That was Chris. So besides that of musician in the orchestra, Chris was also the president of the board for the orchestra. He took on many additional responsibilities, including, not the most important one to you, but to us it was, collecting all the stands at the end of the orchestra rehearsal. And there were a lot of them. He also was the one to determine the dates of the concerts and where they would be and how they would be set up, and a million other details that the orchestra never saw, but we benefited from, because Chris was that kind of person. He did what he needed to do to make the orchestra the best possible orchestra ever. He passed away peacefully, surrounded by family. So that's a little bit about Chris and the orchestra, but let me just tell you, he was really a guy of contrasts. He got his PhD at the University of Chicago and worked at Western Developmental Psychology Services, where he developed tests for autistic kids. Very research-based, very numbers-based. And he was good at it and well known over the entire United States. But Chris's other side was as a mainstay of the Scandinavian dance and music scene here in Southern California for just about 40 years. Those are Scandinavian dancers. So his interest in Scandinavia might have stemmed from the year he spent in southern Sweden as a Rotary Exchange student in high school. Chris danced with the Scandinavian dancers of Southern California. There you go. He was my partner, and my husband was his wife's partner. Long story as to why that happened. And Chris and Diane actually lived in Sweden for 10 summers. During that time, they bought a historic building, which they helped preserve for the use by the community. There were many, many musicians and dancers within the area of where this building was. They often hosted cultural, music, and dance events, huge ones, where hundreds of people from around the town would come. Not around the town, because if you blinked, you missed Fjordal, which is where it was, but around the area, the cultural area in Sweden. Chris enjoyed playing fiddle with many of the local musicians and the groups, and he was really considered part of the community because he was so interested in the culture and the music, and also because he was fluent in Swedish, so he could talk to anybody, and he often did. Chris may have received the most enjoyment from his personal life. He was married almost 54 years to Diane. That's a long time. He was a loving father to Joshua, He was a really fun-loving grandfather to Finn and Grace. And Sundays were devoted to the New York Times crossword puzzle. Now, if you know the New York Times crossword puzzle, Sunday is the most difficult one. He and his grandson, Finn, would work together every Sunday and complete the entire New York Times Sunday crossword puzzle. Now, Finn lived on that side of the United States and Chris lived here. They did it via Zoom. And every day, Chris played the New York Times game, Spelling Bee. And he played it with his sister Ilsa, who lives in Santa Barbara. He always scored the highest level, Queen Bee. And how do I know that? Because he would tell you every day that he won the game again. Chris will be missed and is missed by all with whom he was in contact. He was really missed by the orchestra. He was an insightful test creator. He was a great friend. He was an okay dancer. And he was a really wonderful musician. He made an impact on everybody that he met. In memory of our dear friend Chris Gruber, and as a request from the family, our final piece for this concert is composed by Edvard Grieg. He's a Norwegian composer. In fact, he was the one that wrote the piano concerto that you just heard Yuri play. For Chris, we will play Edvard Grieg's piece, Osa's Death. And please look at the notes in the to see that it's not just a really negative or downer piece of music. It's a beautiful piece. This is Diane Gruber. I really like that.
I always discovered about myself, I need a reason to be doing music. Doing music by myself at home is not something very motivating, but to be a part of a group and making music is really fun.
A lot of spitting into the clarinet and it comes out and it's all over your hands and it's totally disgusting. And that's what I know, I practice too much.
I find parts of music that I need to go over to make sure I know the patterns and can make but I don't really practice the way I did when I was a kid. Stephanie made me do it. No, she told me that after she got started with the other conductor, she told me about the orchestra, and I was looking for something to do. We had just moved to Leisure World, so this is a great thing to get started with.